Today, the prototype of my lap counter is being tested under real conditions, and this will be really exciting. Actually, I just wanted to test the prototype of my new slot car lap counter, but my nephews are having an additional cool idea. As you know from the last videos, you can follow the results of the race on several smartphones and tablets at the same time. And the idea is now to use also a beamer for this. That's why the two of them are building a holder for the beamer on the ceiling. So, in case you ever want to see a really cool racing event, then stay tuned. I will certainly tell you more about the beamer story later. Meanwhile, I put the lap counter into operation. I have to enter the Wi-Fi credential, the length of the racetrack of 18.24 meters and the scale 1:24 in the Arduino code. From the latter, the lap counter computes the true-to-scale lap speed in kilometers per hour. And then we are ready to carry out the first tests with the racing cars. The lap counter works perfectly straight away. The slot cars are reliably detected even at the highest speeds. I actually expected more difficulties with the infrared sensors, as they are not high-tech sensors. They are based on a relatively simple functional principle, and you know, I did some tests in an earlier video in order to find out their limits. Due to the fact that the racetrack is dark grey and rough, it hardly reflects any infrared radiation, and therefore we can set the sensors to be relatively sensitive. As an effect of this, the vehicles are detected very well. And here is a tip. Make sure that the infrared sensors point to a dark area, not the shiny power rail or the white marking. Then they work best. The lap counter also has two integrated digital voltage meters that we connect to the racetrack's power rails. I already explained this in a previous video. Using this feature, we can track at any time on our web interface what voltage is being applied to our racing cars. It's not just a nice gimmick that amazes viewers. On the one hand, we can see at any time whether the power supply is okay. On the other hand, this function offers interesting options for analyzing the driver's profile. We will talk about that later when we get the chance. And by the way, I almost forgot to mention, the measurement is also used to determine penalty times. Hey, I don't know of any other DIY lap counter that offers such features. Let's talk briefly about the actual functions of the lap counter. Of course, the DIY device counts the laps of the race. But we wouldn't be electronics unmessed if there wasn't a lot more to it. The lap counter calculates the last lap time, the average lap time, the best lap time, penalty times, the average speed and the total time. And then take a look at this. My brother-in-law is already using the best lap time function in his training to further improve his personal best lap time. Of course, this works great if you can measure thousandths of a second. I think he doesn't want to give the lap counter back to me anymore. That's not a problem, because I have a second piece of hardware to further develop the counter. Now, what else did we find out? You need a good Wi-Fi network so that the web interface responds quickly. In our first test, the Wi-Fi signal had to penetrate two false ceilings. You probably know from my videos about wave propagation that this makes the signal too weak. It was actually surprising that it worked. We have to improve this for the next test because we had interruptions and the data transfer was sometimes too slow. Then there is an idea to improve ergonomics of operation. If the pilots have to start and stop the race themselves, then it would be very practical if there were two really large hardware buttons for this. Similar to an emergency switch, because there is a lot of action during the race. And then it is not so easy to stop the race via the browser interface while driving. I will implement an additional function in the electronics so that you can start and stop the race with 2 hardware buttons. Today we don't have enough time to test all the features. However, we have seen that the basic functions all work very well. The next step is to design a stable and stylish casing. Of course, again, we will share the construction plans with you. And I'm sure our sponsor PCBWay will be happy to print the casing for you. You will find the CNC and 3D printing section on the website. You can easily upload your design data. And guys, I'm so impressed by the variety of materials I can choose from. Besides numerous plastic options, there is even metal, and it's great to see the price immediately with every change you make. It is always good to test under real conditions at the right time. In one of the next episodes I have to talk about the performance of this cool analog gauge, which we also tested. The lap counter worked very well. I can really recommend it for replicating, because it makes slot car races even more exciting. I will continue to improve the electronics code, and the slot car racing team is coming up with more and more great ideas for the casing. Now stay tuned and don't forget to support the channel. See you soon in the coming episodes.